Greetings, I'm Rob Chappers.
And I'm the captain.
And today we are honoured to do essentially a review of the amazing Tony Iommi Laney amplifier.
Indeedy.
And this could basically be called Sound Like Tony Iommi.
It might as well be, because you certainly can now sound like Tony Iommi. So, now, there are a lot of small tube sort of practice type amplifiers out there that are designed and endorsed by famous guitar players who may or may not ever play those amplifiers, I don't know. But the story behind this little beastie is that Tony actually did want an amp that he could use to warm up and practice on and stuff like that backstage before he went out and used his mega Laney Iommi kind of rig of doom. So this was born of a real practical need as opposed to just, you know, a money-making kind of spin. And the basic spec is that it's a 15-watt 1x12 all-tube amplifier with essentially some cool features off of his main head, like the pre-boost kind of pull, extra gain. It's voiced very much how he would want it to be. I really like this feature where you've got the full 15-watt input, or if you use the input underneath it, you get a 1-watt amplifier, so it cuts the volume right down. But I think what we'll talk about in this video predominantly is just the tones, because really, you know, there's not a lot of spec to really talk about.
Talking of tone, the story of this morning is that I turned up a little bit late, a little bit lag de jet in my face, and tired, and not really up for a review. Had no idea what I was going to review, and I walk in to watch Captain, and he goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he made a sound, and we were both like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
It's a great little amplifier.
It's one of these things, it doesn't look like it's going to sound the way it sounds, but it just has that thing.
So for this next clip or this next part of the video where we're going to show you the tones, we're going to start with all the tone sections, so bass, middle and treble, the dynamics control, the main overall tone control, all round about 12 o'clock. The drive is on about number 7, and what we are going to do is going to show you this pre-boost feature, which you can switch in either with the control on the front of the amp or via a single button foot switch, but you have to buy that as extra. And the volume, the master volume, we're in the 15-watt mode, and the master volume's at about number 4. So if Rob starts playing some chunk, and then I will switch in the pre-boost, which we've also got to about number 7, and you'll hear the difference with that. So. Now, I think what we'll also do is do that same thing again, but on some lead solo stuff, because that's really where you hear the pre-boost. So here's without pre-boost. And here's with.
Well, maybe a little bit faster, actually.
Yeah, and check out the sustain. With pre-boost in, you can really...
Yeah, it's going to be a standing wave in some of the places on the guitar.
Yeah, it just goes into feedback. Beautiful sound.
The thing about, sorry to interrupt you there,
right,
Captain, mid-flow and your spec of the amplifier, which interests me greatly, but more interesting is the Tony Iommi character himself. Now, that guy took the tools of his genre, his time, and basically invented half a new genre.
Yes.
He is an absolute legend. I grew up on Tony Iommi, and oddly, you too as well. I thought was fascinating about Tony was he took a disability, A, being left-handed back then, B, having a problem with his finger. And he came out a ridiculous feel player. And you think about the genre of metal and heavy rock, and you don't think about people with feel. I don't think back then specifically, especially not now, but he has an amazing feel in his vibrato. And what I've tried to do for this demo is really mimic his vibrato. It's been very difficult, but what I've discovered is that, because it's all about the fingers, yeah? But what Iommi's got is this thing, he does open hand, or at least I think he does, vibrato. So rather than doing what I would normally do, you grab onto the guitar for dear life and do what I call opening the door handle. That's Chappers style vibrato and kind of Captain. He just comes away from the guitar and uses the whole arm, so you get a sharper, a little bit the way Slash does, but it's so signature Iommi sounding, it's just amazing. And there's this one thing I hear in my head whenever I think of Tony, which is on the live Paranoid album, and it's the beginning of War Pigs, and the feedback goes, and it sounds like the earth is angry with Black Sabbath, and his vibrato just stings and sings and brings it out, and it's just amazing. So this is the way I'm trying to get that kind of
really fast,
super fast, but like very, very accurate. That's what Tony Iommi does best. He's an absolute legend. We're honoured to be reviewing his product for him.
I'm going to start fiddling around. You may have noticed this little red pedal on top. That's a reverb pedal because the amp doesn't have reverb in it.
By TC Electronic.
Yes, but it does have an effects loop, which is super cool because I know a lot of smaller amplifiers, get rid of that feature to save a few pennies, but this doesn't. This has an effects loop on it. So let's start. Let's start. Basically, I'm going to just go through some of the EQ controls, so you can hear what it sounds like with a slightly more scooped mid-range, slightly more dialed-in mid-range, whatever. So whilst Rob is playing, watch what I'm doing.
I'll use the neck pickup for some rhythm stuff, and I'll just chug on some power chords.
Okay.
Changing to the other pickup. I just love this amp, man.
You know what? Little tip And Gus G said this when we had him in for an interview. He basically just said, you know what, now I never really know what to do with my EQ controls, so he said, I just dial them all in. So it's like maximum. And you know what, I thought the best sound we had out of this little amplifier was the same. All the EQ controls just dialed all the way in.
Because more is more when it comes to rock. Yeah, that's the thing.
The dynamics control is an interesting feature. It's a little bit, I think, like a sort of a loudness control on a hi-fi is. What it essentially does is it says when you're running the amplifier at low volume and we accept that the speaker's not moving so much, so we've lost a little bit of natural bass end, dynamics allows you to dial that kind of bass end in. What you do need to do though, as you start to drive the amplifier more and the speaker really starts to move, you should really then back the dynamics control off, otherwise you're going to get this sort of bass overload. So that's what dynamics is. Tone is pretty obvious. It's just a basic sort of, you know, do I need a sort of darker or brighter sort of sound? I haven't touched the drive control yet. In true Chappers style, I suspect you're all wondering, I just wonder how much gain this bad boy has actually got.
It's got more gain than you'd ever need.
So let's go. Max gain, max pre-boost.
Someone's taken my toy away.
Yes, back to earth.
But what was interesting about that was it was very controllable.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to get the feedback and have a bit of fun with that kind of sound, but very controllable and tight.
It's pretty loud in here, but not loud, is it? I mean, it's like I suppose it is like a 15-watt amplifier running about half power. So, I mean, but it's amazing, as you say, how much kind of that natural sustain and a sweet sound.
You know, he's been with Laney forever, hasn't he?
I don't think he's ever used anything other than Laney.
No, I mean, back in the day, he was using sort of what was around at the time, but it's kind of nice to think that a guy who is as influential, I mean, he created bands like Metallica, and, you know, to think that he's sticking with basically
he's not just stayed true to the country he was born in, he stayed true to the town he was born in.
Yeah, and a little traditional, well, basically a little traditional British amp company.
Not so little, maybe anymore, but perhaps back in the day.
Back in the day.
Let's show you a comparison between the 15-watt input and the 1-watt input. So again, if we just get Rob to do some chug. So that's 15 watts, this is 1 watt.
I have to say, it sounds exactly the same, it's just quieter.
Just quieter, isn't it?
Which is actually no mean feat.
Now, here's one of my...
We're going to talk about the grill.
Yeah, it's my favourite kind of feature and story. On the Tony Iommi, as you know, kind of has this signature Celtic cross emblem that he's got on his SG. It's on the 12th fret inlay. And the 4x12s that he has made by Laney have these steel grills that are pressed so that thousands of his little sort of cross shapes come out of the grill. Now, you might think that that's just a visual kind of signature thing. But no, it really radically alters the tone.
Yeah.
Because I suppose at least a half, maybe even a third of the front of his cabinet is covered in metal. And the holes only probably represent about a third or a half of the overall space.
Yeah.
A lot of those very high frequency sort of transient notes can't make it through the metal grill.
But we should say, as a side note to that, it's very top-endy coming out if you want it to be.
So I think it gets voiced to compensate for that.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, I know a story, or I've heard a story, that his sound engineers have a real problem getting the mic placement right on his 4x12s because the air pressure that comes through the little kind of cross cutout.
It's a cross-shaped air.
Is like about 3 times that the air pressure would be if it just had like a cloth grill on the front of it. So it's very... makes it quite a challenge to, well, not a challenge, but you just got to be, you have to be careful doing
You
mic
probably have
placement.
to back the mics off a little bit to get the spread that
I think
naturally occur.
I think whenever you're recording an amplifier, mic placement's always important. But
Yeah.
I think on this it probably comes even more so.
Yeah. It changes the tone. That's the thing.
Paul, our sound man, was saying, if he was recording this, he'd be tempted just to take the metal grill off and see, get a sound like that. But so that's kind of, I love that little story. I don't know whether or not kind of, chicken and egg. I don't know whether or not the kind of the visual look came first and then the sound was a bonus, or whether or not it was kind of like, no, it's really important to get the
I bet
sound,
my bottom dollar it was a happy accident.
Yeah, happy
I
accident.
bet he wanted
Yeah.
to see what it looked like, and then it just sounded great, and it was like, that's what we're going to have.
There's a Van Halen story, isn't there, about back in the day, he used to have all kinds of different thicknesses of grill cloth on the front of his 4x12s to get the sound that he wanted. It's just kind of like, there you go. So what have we got on the back of this amplifier? Let me just refer to my notes. We have, do you know what, this is so packed full of goodness. We've got an effects loop, which we talked about already. We have, which actually, again, in addition to having the two different level modes so that you can match it up to either use with pedals or rack kit, it actually has a bypass switch. So if you want to hard bypass the effects loop, yeah. So that's a really pro feature on what is, I haven't told you how much this is yet, you have to wait to the end for that.
This also comes as a mega head, doesn't it?
Yeah. You've got the foot switch socket to activate the pre-boost. You've got a CD, MP3 sort of input, so when Tony's backstage and he sort of has to warm up to some of the Sabbath tunes, he can get his iPad out, iPod. Can't say the word iPod anymore, I just say iPad every time, I don't know why. You've got a headphone output, which is emulated as well, so it doesn't sound fizzy, it sounds like it's coming out the speaker. And we have a proper line output, emulated line out, so you can go straight into an interface and record it. It's just superb. And the best thing of all is the price, because it's just stupidly affordable.
I don't think they're going to believe how cheap it is.
I don't think they're going to believe how cheap it is.
I didn't believe how cheap it was.
It's £2.50. Yeah. It's not really £2.50. It's £350.
Yeah.
Which is just insane.
For my money, I think if you're a metal player, specifically metal player, this is my favourite budget metal amplifier.
Yeah.
I think it would be incredibly hard to beat. But having said that, we did just do a little video with some Gibsons for Gibson Guitar Corporation, and we just had the most stellar
Peter Greentone, didn't
Peter
you?
Greentone, and kind of free, and you can back off the gain and get some beautiful bluesy crunches. So really great amp.
So yes, good job, Laney. We had a lot of fun actually with their Ironheart series recently, and I think this just now crowns off what has been a stellar few months for Laney.
Why don't we grab an Ibanez and just play something that isn't Iommi sounding, so that if you're not necessarily a massive Iommi fan, then you should be and grow up. But if you're not, then let's just listen to some Ibanez through the Iommi signature.
Now, somebody said to me the other day that if you're, Rob Chapman, and you get to the 12th fret and you think, I need to go a bit more.
Yeah.
And then you get to like the 15th fret and you go, need to go a bit more. But that's okay, because most guitars will do that. Then you get to like the 20th fret and you're thinking, I need to go a bit, I need more frets. I need more frets. And then you start going, now I'm in some sticky ground here, because okay, maybe 22 frets, 24 frets.
Or did the Philex trick and just like fret on the humbucker to try and get the 28th
rather than scallop out like the actual neck pickup to give you more frets.
Did you talk to Ibanez?
I talked to Ibanez and I said, is there a chance that you could make a guitar where literally the frets go all the way around the guitar strap, so that literally we could have like a million frets? But what they did say was, well, we can't give you a million frets, but we could probably give you like 30 or 32. Hang on.
I think it's 30.
6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 30 frets.
Yeah.
We could give you 30 frets and a cutaway that looks like a tin opener or something like this.
And it's like a shark going num 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 num.
So let's see what happens here. We've sacrificed. We'll do a proper review of this in a minute. But just for now, let's hear this sparkly red Doom Beast thing.
anything that this guitar and this amp can't do.
I cannot believe. I mean, I've gone back to turn the pre-boost off, got the drive on number 7, I've given a little bit more mid-range, a little bit more treble, and I can't believe how on that 12th fret on the B string, it's going into, because it's not that loud still.
Going into over hyper crazy drive. So, are those frets usable? Yeah, they really, really are. And I've got regular sized fingers.
What happens to your fingertips? Like, we've only been doing
I do a
this
lot
for
of
like
vibrato. Yeah. Well, but what you got to do, this is, you know what it feels like? It feels like playing a flying V.
Yeah.
Because you've got unlimited access. The frets get really, really, really small as you go up. And we'll do a full review of this another time. But really, basically, it's just awesome.
Cool.
I'm so happy
you're right,
that Ibanez have given me one.
Back to the amplifier. I've got the drive only on number 4.
It sounds wicked.
It just sounds great. I haven't had this big happy face like this on. Like, this is proper happy face. crazy. What a little bundle of joy. And that's it. I've been the captain.
I've been the Chappers and captain. Very much out.
See you later.